Welcome, everyone. My name is Patrick Sullivan. I'm the President and CEO of the Halifax Chamber of Commerce. I want to start off by thanking our sponsor, the Nova Scotia Association of Realtors, for making these webinars possible. I'd also like to thank our councillor candidates for both running in the municipal election and for being with us today. We will be hearing today from District 10 candidates. District 10 is located in Bedford Basin, where Russell Walker is currently the incumbent councillor and where I grew up. The Halifax Chamber of Commerce appreciates the time and effort that's required to run for and become a councillor in Halifax. We also want to thank our viewers for joining us today. I hope that you're able to gain some valuable insights into your district councillors and ask questions relevant to you. Given the restrictions due to COVID-19, we were unsure whether candidates would be able to canvass through their district, potentially losing the personal touch of campaigning and getting great feedback from their constituents. The Halifax Chamber of Commerce knows how important the role of the municipality is to the success of our business community, and that it's directly linked to the importance of the decisions that our councillors make. We wanted to ensure our members and the community could hear from and ask questions of their district candidates. For those of you who don't know, the overall goal of the Chamber of Commerce is to create value and prosperity for our 1,700 members. Through our 2019-2023 strategic plan, we are providing the services businesses need, hosting virtual and in-person events that will help them learn, and are advocating for the conditions in the economy that will enhance their prosperity. Our task forces, fostering private sector growth and accessing a skilled workforce, are currently working towards goals that aid in our members' prosperity and economic growth of the municipality. We usually, in a good year, host more than 100 events each year, which focus on many of those areas mentioned above. Our signature and annual events often feature local entrepreneurs, immigrants, post-secondary institutions, prestigious business organizations, and each year we provide our members the opportunity to hear the state of the municipality, state of the province, during luncheons, and celebrate their successes at our business awards. Of course, this year we'll be doing a lot of that virtually. As I mentioned, the Nova Scotia Association of Realtors is sponsoring this series of Meet Your Candidates webinars, and we'd like to say a big thank you to them for supporting this idea. I'd like to pass it over to the Nova Scotia Association of Realtors now to welcome the crowd and to say a few words.
Quick introduction of myself. As Patrick said, my name is Chris Peters. I've been a realtor going on close to 10 years now, and I am the current president for the Nova Scotia Association of Realtors. The Nova Scotia Association of Realtors is very pleased to sponsor this series of Meet Your Candidate events. NSAR represents over 1,600 salespeople and brokers across the province, and we are the voice of real estate in Nova Scotia. Realtors are ambassadors of our communities and are often one of the first points of contact for new residents. We know communities that we serve, from the schools and recreation facilities to the service providers and commute times. We are your trusted guides. Realtors connect home buyers to potential costs and government programs such as the first-time home buyer incentive. And realtors play a key role in working with our elected officials to strengthen our housing markets. Realtors are also a key component of the local economy. In 2019, the average housing transaction through the NSAR MLS system generated an estimated $47,600 in spin-off spending, totaling over $586 million in spin-off spending in just 2019 alone. In 2019, the MLS resale housing activity created an estimated 4,400 jobs in Nova Scotia. The real estate industry is proud to be a major contributor to our vibrant communities. But as you all know, housing has been in our news a lot lately, not just in Nova Scotia, but across Canada. Inventory and vacancy rates are at extreme lows in HRM, historic lows in fact, and without housing, all of our communities will suffer. Housing is a spectrum, from community and social housing to new builds. Realtors believe everyone should have a place that they can call home. That's why we're so pleased to participate in this series of discussions to help shape how our communities and our municipalities move forward. every person on this call has an opportunity to work together to make housing more affordable. From speeding up development permits to creating rental spaces and encouraging backyard and secondary suites, we can all play a part in moving forward to better build our communities together. I want to thank Halifax Chamber for this opportunity to sponsor today's event. And I want to thank each and every one of you as the candidates that have taken the time out of your personal lives to put yourselves forward and participate and run in this election. So on behalf of everyone at NSAR, thank you. And Patrick, I'll throw it back to you.
Okay, thanks. That's great, Chris. And we're going to hear more from Chris because he's going to ask a question as we get started. But before we do that, I would like to invite each candidate to have exactly 3 minutes, although you can take less, to introduce yourselves and to provide a few reasons for running, and then we'll get into questions. Our questions will be a combination of those that we've previously sent and in our candidate package, and questions that our viewers may propose along the side in our Q&A or our chat function. You can send us questions if you have them along the way. You will have 1 minute to answer the questions, and we will allow candidates to answer each question as we're kind of going along. I may choose sort of an individual to ask a question. Everyone may not get the same question just because of time today, okay? You do have the opportunity to answer in the chat if you'd like to write something down or provide a link to a position that you may have on your websites, okay? So I'm going to start with Andrew Curran. So Andrew, please unmute and introduce yourself if you'd like. And again, you have 3 minutes to do that.
Well, thank you very much. My name is Andrew Curran. A little background. I'm an information technology support specialist with the Halifax Public Libraries for the last over 20 years, 24 years now. And troubleshooting issues is in my first nature, doing research and finding solutions. Why I'm running for district councilor started 5 years ago actually. I met a woman in my neighborhood who was watering her lawn, killing it with a water, stopping all of the dog walkers in the neighborhood, which I'm one of. Anyhow, it turns out I met her. She became a widow 6 months earlier, and so her husband was her life, and is all she knew, many neighbors. Fast forward a few months later, and I certainly don't mind saying this, I was walking by. She hadn't left the neighborhood, but she'd left, and because there was no community engagement. And so a few months later, I'm walking by and I'm saying prayers for my daughter in Newfoundland to do well in school. And I look down the street where she lives, and instantly I knew I had to do something to help seniors. We've lost the Northcliffe Community Center a number of years ago. And that used to have the HRM recreation program, the type of program that seniors used to use to stay engaged with one another and socialize. We gave the Canada Game Center, great facility, but they don't have that type of affordable programming. And that's essentially why I got involved. And several months later, when I was doing the campaigning in 2016, I met a woman just 3 houses down who just flat out admitted that she's lonely. She gets her groceries, goes to the doctor's appointment, gets a few phone calls a week from her kids. But, you know, she's lonely because she doesn't know anyone. And I thought, if only she thought to go outside and water her lawn so she can meet the other person stopping dog walkers. So I realized we need to do something to help seniors and combat loneliness in their neighborhood for seniors. That's why I got involved. And of course, I've learned about many other issues. Traffic being the most popular issue 4 years ago. It's still one of the most popular today. But that's why I got involved. One thing I'll say about traffic, we all get tied up in traffic, and there's solutions in the works for those. But when we're tied up in traffic, we get through it in about 35, 40 minutes. But for seniors, and we don't think about it again, but for seniors, their loneliness doesn't end after rush hour traffic. And that's why I got involved. And so I want to do something for our community to help with seniors and families and youth so that they have a place to go and learn about their community, because that has been lost now since Northcliffe Community Center closed, as well as the Rockingham Community Center. My heart is in community, and that is why I got involved and why I'm running. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much, Andrew. Just a reminder, and Andrew was under time, so that's great. Thank you very much. Just a reminder, we will cut off the mic at 3 minutes. This isn't the Donald Trump debate, although you're all already much more respectful than we certainly saw tonight. So thank you for that. I'll now go on to Catherine Morris. Catherine? Hey, Catherine, can you unmute yourself there? There you are. Oh, I think you're still muted.
Is that better now?
All good.
Yeah, thank you. I'm running for a more livable, affordable, and sustainable HRM. And I've been working very hard on my campaign the last number of months, and I've spoken to, knocked on more than 3,000 doors in the community and spoken with people all across the district. And the number one issue that I'm hearing about is the lack of affordable housing in Halifax, especially in District 10. It's mainly the rental housing that's the issue, but it's cutting across many different walks of life. So I'm hearing it from recent graduates, from young families, from seniors and people with disabilities, from new Canadians, and even employers say they're struggling because their employees are having difficulty finding affordable housing. So I think this is a really critical issue for the whole city. And when so many people are struggling to pay their rent, it means they have less money to contribute and spend in other ways in the local economy. I think that the second issue that's really important in this district is just getting the right balance between the development and growth that we're seeing and the older neighborhoods. We're seeing more growth in this district than many other parts of HRM. It's a fast growing district, but there's been a lot of downside for some of the residents. And I think we need to find a better balance there. People are unhappy about overcrowded schools, a high volume of traffic, as Andrew mentioned. And I think with better planning and coordination, we can make our neighborhoods work for everybody. And there's no question that we need more growth in the city. We need to be a denser city, but we need smart, livable density. And that comes through better coordination with all levels of government, the private sector, and community partners. Just briefly about me, I have a 4-year degree in environmental planning, which included ecology and social planning, urban planning, and I think it's an important foundation when you're dealing with so many planning issues on council. I feel like I have a broad view of the community because I worked for CBC TV for many years as a reporter here in Halifax, and I did interviews with thousands of people on every different subject imaginable, and it gave me a broad perspective on the community. I also have experience in government because I was the assistant to the Minister of Finance and the Minister of Health between 2009 and 2013, and I was involved in the budget process leading up to the balanced budget in 2013. I think more recently I've been involved in a different side of a work with the Nature Conservancy of Canada and was on the team that helped get a new park for Halifax, the Shoulder Park in Purcell's Cove. So I think all of these experiences in my professional background and my education make me a well-rounded candidate. And I feel like at this point in time, there are a lot of challenges for anyone who gets elected to council with COVID and a post.
So there we go. A good example of what happens at 3 minutes. But I think you were wrapping up, Catherine, so I apologize for that, but let's keep our timing in mind. Just as a reminder for everybody who's not on an iPad, if you'd like to make the person bigger between the clock and the picture of the candidate or myself, if you move your mouse over there, there's a line. You can typically pull that line and you can make the picture bigger and the clock smaller. I hope that works. I don't think that works for iPads, but we're looking into that, Doris, to let you know what we can do. Okay, thank you very much, Catherine. Sorry about that. Let's turn it over to Mohammed Isan now. Mohammed, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Oh, hi. How are you? This is Mohammed Isan. I'm a District 10 resident and have been involved in the community for some time, and running the last municipal elections too. Now, staying engaged and, the community is an extended family for me. As a first-generation Canadian, that's how we teach our kids that, this is everything is in the community. So that's why community first is the slogan that I have for my campaign. And staying engaged and helping people around us, especially seniors, have been my core functions. And also businesses here, local businesses have been my core functions in the last 5-6 years in here, and overall in the last 12 years in Halifax. Now, from the sidelines, you can do stuff, but you cannot do a lot of stuff that needs to be done. So I have been engaged in the community with different organizations, non-governmental organizations, and initiated in the last 6 months when basically the province was on lockdown. We initiated Stronger Together initiative, and I was out with some of my friends doing helping seniors, helping the community members. Now, appreciating all my work, many of my friends and residents have encouraged me to run, so that's why I'm running, and my name is on the ballot. And to tell you about my background, I teach Canadian politics and public administration, public policy in the university system here. Now, for me as a theoretician, I think that better politics and better public service is always possible, because many of us are really disillusioned because of how politicians operate. So in my heart, I'm a firm believer that we can change that. And that's the reason I'm running. We can do better, and we can provide better services and better politics to the people. So that's why I'm running, and I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much, Mohammed. Okay, and now we'll move on to Sherry Hasanelli. Sherry?
Good afternoon. My name is Sherry Hasanelli. I am a second-generation Canadian. I am Nova Scotian born. My parents came here from Trinidad and Tobago in the West Indies. We came here as a family in 1966, and we settled in the St. Margaret's Bay area. Currently, I am working full-time at ISANS, and I'm also teaching in the Faculty of Education at Mount St. Vincent University. I've chosen to run because I truly believe that my purpose in life is to serve. I've already been in public service for over 30 years in various capacities, but I believe I've been discerning this particular decision for quite some time. Recently, my husband and I spent 2 years in the Middle East, where I was faculty at a Canadian college. While there, I felt this unbelievable, inextricable pull to come home. My service to Canada was not complete, so I needed to come home. My parents taught me the profound and intrinsic value of service and giving back to your community, and I deeply wish to continue to serve my community in this manner. So since I formally declared back in July, I've been publicly stating, including on all my media platforms, that I truly want Halifax to be a more welcoming, diverse, and inclusive place for all people to live, learn, work, and play. And I truly love the concept of home, and I believe that Halifax should provide a feeling of a safe home for all. And research has consistently shown that when people feel safe, they're able to be highly productive and contributing members of their communities. So District 10 has the unique and distinct pleasure of being the largest and fastest multi-ethnic district in our, not just our city. This undoubtedly is our biggest asset. Ethnicity is just one part of diversity. And it truly is the biggest gift that our city has. And it is a gift that is untapped in talent. And that talent will make Halifax stronger, both locally and beyond. And according to the latest statistics, our neighborhood is a glorious amalgam of the best diversity the world has to offer. My tagline has been, now's the time. So now's the time for a real authentic change, and council must represent the diversity of its citizens. So Halifax was settled in 1749 on the unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. According to the provincial archives, in its 271-year history, there's never been a woman of color serving in the leadership of Halifax. What I uniquely bring to this position is that I am a woman of color from immigrant parents who grew up truly understanding what diversity means. These aren't just words to me. I know them deeply, and I believe I would be the perfect candidate for the whole district. And I will always give voice to equity, diversity, and inclusion so all may enjoy a long and sustainable future. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Sherry. Boy, everybody's getting really good at getting right to the clock. So thank you very much. Appreciate that. Renee Field.
My name is Renee Field, and I am a research program manager at Mount Vincent University. I've been at TAN for the past 20 years, and in that time, when we had issues with crime and when HRM removed the existing playground at DJ Butler Park in Rockingham, I created a residents association, and within 2 years raised over $140,000 for the redesign of the park to better meet community needs. I've chaired the association, which represents over 400 homes for the past 15 years. And in that time frame, we've developed 2 outdoor rinks, and work is currently underway to create a community garden for next summer. When residents wanted to get involved with the Syrian crisis, I formed and chaired the committee to bring a Syrian family to Canada. And within a few short months, we raised the $25,000 to bring them to Halifax. Today, I'm happy to say the family is thriving in Fairview. Besides my proven experience to create positive change in the community, as a business entrepreneur, I understand the needs facing businesses. I was CEO and founder of a digital company in District 10 and employed 6 people. I understand how hard small businesses work, and I understand how difficult it can be to access funding to start a business. There is no day off when you are the CEO of a company. That's why last year I worked to create a business commission for District 10. I met with over 170 business owners in the district. When surveyed, 50% of the businesses said awareness of their local business within the community was lacking. This bridge to better connect the business community with residents is essential to a vibrant economy. And now, more than ever, with the pandemic, we need to encourage people to shop locally. I stepped forward to run for council because for over 2 decades, I've been making positive change in the district. I have a strong voice and I don't just sit on a committee. I stand up for the residents. Engagement is key, and that's why I have said I will hold monthly town hall meetings and create a citizens advisory group made up of diverse people throughout the district to meet quarterly. I understand the need for a vibrant, diverse community, and I'm equipped to work nonstop to make District 10 the best place to live, work, shop, and play. My experience and proven track record makes me the ideal candidate for District 10. Thank you for this opportunity.
There it goes. I was on mute. Thank you very much, Rini. I think I mispronounced it, but let's, if Rini is right, we'll go with that. Okay. And finally, Kyle Morton. Kyle.
Hi, I'm Kyle Morton. I was born and raised in Clayton Park. I continue to live here today. I'm 20 years old and a third-year student at St. Mary's University, a triple majoring in finance, economics, and computing and information systems. If elected, I'll be switching to part-time studies, however, so I can focus on council with the attention my district deserves. Make no mistake, I'm not running so that I can be a councillor. I'm running so that I can get things done. Chief among these is fixing our housing market. Our severe lack of housing is a fundamental threat, and it's getting worse. At risk are countless people and families, in addition to our brisk continued economic growth. This is not a time for delay or half measures. Over the past 4 years, that time has come and gone. Now is a time for action, and that's what I'll deliver if elected. My plan for fixing the housing market is about setting clear and transparent standards for new construction so we can work with the private sector to build more housing without sacrificing quality. Whether or not the talent of young students stays here in Halifax, whether or not immigrants and newcomers can continue to build a good life here, and whether or not Halifax continues to flourish economically and culturally will be affected not just by the goodwill of our upcoming council, but by their strength of will and determination. I'm Kyle Morton, candidate for District 10 in Halifax, and I'm determined. Thank you.
Sorry, I keep putting myself on mute. Thank you very much, Kyle. Appreciate that. Okay, we're now going to turn over to the questions, and I believe we're now moving to 1 minute. You can show me Sandra or Kathleen just by putting 1 minute up there, if that's right, because I think we're going to move to 1 minute. So this is going to be a lot tougher for everybody. Thank you very much for the intros. Really appreciate that. I'm now going to turn it back to Chris at NSAR, or Nova Scotia Association of Realtors, to kick off the question and answer session. Chris, let me turn it back to you.
All right, thank you, Patrick. I appreciate that. And I want to give a big thank you once again to all of our candidates. Your introductions clearly demonstrate your passion for your district. So my question on behalf of the realtors of this province and the Nova Scotia Association of Realtors is purchase and rental housing supplies are near historic lows in Nova Scotia. Housing is essential to our communities and to our businesses. How will you ensure there is a healthy housing mix that includes the entire spectrum from community housing, rental, and home ownership?
Okay, that's a tough question. I know some of you touched on housing. I'm going to change things up and kind of go back the other way now. So I'm going to turn it right back. Oh, look at there, there's Chris. Turn it right back over to Kyle, actually. Kyle, to address that question. And maybe Kathleen or Sandra, I could get you to type the question into the chat so that we can have a reminder of what the question is as we go along, okay? So Kyle, let me turn it back to you to answer Chris's question.
All right, so I think this is a great question. My plan, as I suggested before, is to set clear standards for what can be built and where. So we have a transparent system where new constructions being built to the codes that we set don't have to go through a multi-year approvals limbo that makes it take far too long for us to build new housing of all sorts of different types. This will help increase the supply of housing overall, and we can fine-tune it with the use of incentives and government support where required to have a healthier, more balanced housing market for the full housing spectrum. Over time, this increased tax base will also help provide more funds to combat homelessness and other important priorities. Thank you.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much, Kyle. Renee, oh, sorry, Remy. Did I get that right? You can correct me.
It's Rini.
Okay, perfect.
Sorry?
Yeah, over to you. So the question is now for you.
So I would work with Halifax Council to utilize and empower Community Council and develop a 10-year strategy. The city needs to work with nonprofit housing providers to address the affordable and accessible housing issue currently affecting our most vulnerable. And it's clear that the Affordable Housing Work Plan in 2018 the city adopted does not work. The plan does not require any monitoring or follow any reporting protocols. The city needs to fast track the housing need if they're going to measure meaningful results on a yearly basis. And the city has a duty to its citizens to think outside of the box to tackle this growing issue, which is prevalent throughout HRM. That's also why I was so excited to see HRM agree to develop planning policies to enable clustered tiny home developments for homes for heroes. This is the type of forward thinking we need to be able to embrace. We also need to make sure that the province, which gets federal funds for housing, is contributing fairly to creating and maintaining low rent housing stock.
Okay, that's great. Thanks, Rini. Appreciate it. Sherry. And just a reminder, the question is just off in the chat if you'd like to review the question again as we get to it. So Sherry, here you are.
Thank you. Shelter is a basic human right. We are now in a housing crisis. So how do we deal with this housing crisis that is limiting a basic human right? So the other day I was talking to a friend of mine who said that a friend of hers just put up a 2-bedroom apartment for $1,200 in the West End. And within 2 hours, she had 25 applications for this 2-bedroom apartment for $1,200. What was said there is that, what was clear there was that people are struggling and they're fighting over very few vacancies. So if you look at the Halifax skyline, you can see that Halifax is thriving and growing with all the cranes, but we really have to do more to make sure that we have affordable housing in all areas, that in each building has something affordable.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much, Sherry. Cutting it close there. Great, thank you. Mohammed. Oh, I think you're back on mute.
Sorry.
That's
Can you
okay.
hear me now?
Yep.
Okay. So I'm a firm believer of housing first policy to be adopted to deal with homelessness and homelessness and housing crisis. And we need a healthy mix of all sectors. So we need private sector investment, and I believe that a mix of, it's a multi-jurisdictional level, right? So all levels of government should get involved to deal with affordable housing issues and housing issues in particular. So 1% vacancy rate is too much. I would like to see changes in the archaic sort of land use and land use methods, and also density issues, so that medium and small size entrepreneurs can also grow in the community. And finally, of course, what was the issue? Anyway, I'll stop here, okay?
Okay, that's fine. You were cutting it very close there anyway, so that's great. Thank you. Catherine.
Yes, thanks. This is an issue that is a little bit tougher in Halifax than in many other communities, because we haven't really had much in the way of investment in affordable housing for more than 30 years. So I really think that it's time where there needs to be some government leadership and some coordinated leadership. It's a cross-jurisdictional problem, but we're going to be looking at probably federal infrastructure funding as a part of the post-COVID recovery. And if we build energy efficient housing, affordable, accessible housing, we can make the most of those infrastructure dollars. But the main problem that we're having, I think, a lot of good work going on from various community partners and different levels of government, but it's not coordinated. So I think the priority would be for the city to hire a lead with a track record in developing affordable housing, and get that person to start new construction, because we need more supply.
Okay, there you go, dead on. Okay, thanks very much, Catherine. Appreciate that. And Andrew.
Yes, hi. So my thinking is this is one of the most important issues, should be a priority for HRM, is affordable housing and the issues, because everyone deserves a place to live and call home. I will ensure that there is a healthy housing mix. HRM needs to build more affordable community housing within HRM, encourage more co-ops, inclusionary housing with new development. I'll advocate for mixed income housing development within communities, and provide, and with these secondary and backyard suites, I think there should be some incentives for residents to build accessibility into those secondary and backyard suites, particularly for seniors and those with mobility impairments, maybe with tax break incentive. But housing is very, very important, and it is a major issue. Thank you.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much, Andrew. And thank you very much, Chris, for the question. It's obvious housing is a strong topic of conversation among residents. And obviously, you've all put in some thoughts. So thank you very much for those answers. And thank you again, Chris. Now I'm going to jump into some other questions, reminding people that if they'd like to post a question in the Q&A, they can certainly post a question for the candidates. I will jump in, and I guess I'm going to try and move things around a little bit as far as asking people. So be prepared, candidates, so I may not go in any particular order, okay? So the question I'll start with is COVID-19 related. It's had a significant impact on our business community. How do you plan on supporting our businesses as we continue to live with the virus for an indefinite period of time? And I'm going to start this time with Mohammed. And again, I'll let you get off mute, Mohammed, but I'll also ask Kathleen and Sandra to perhaps post that in the chat. You have that question available. So one more time, I'll say COVID-19's had a great impact on our business community. How do you plan on supporting our businesses as we continue to live with the virus for an indefinite period of time? Mohammed.
Thank you again. COVID, I mean, what a difficult time for businesses to be in the last 6 months, 7 months. It's already challenging, but it has become much more challenging in the last 7 months. We need more collaboration among different levels of government to help the businesses. I have many friends who have businesses in the district, and because it's a growing district, more and more businesses are starting as well. So for the bit of collaboration among all levels of government would help them survive this sort of difficult COVID-19 situation, because I have friends who didn't have to deal with had trouble with landlords because they will not take the opportunities to get the benefits from the government. So more collaboration for businesses and helping our businesses to grow here.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. And again, as Mohammed just did, just remind everybody it's 1 minute to answer the question. Sherry, I'll go to you next, if that's okay. COVID-19's had a great impact on our business community. How do you plan on supporting our businesses as we continue to live with the virus for an indefinite period of time?
Buy local, buy local, buy local. And buying local has never been more important. So buying local keeps the money here, it stays local, and those local jobs and salaries stay in the community. So this is a very, very different time we're living in. And there are fewer opportunities to succeed because of the lower capacity in terms of restaurants and retail, what have you. But it's going to take us some time to rebound, probably 12 to 18 months to rebound. But in order to do that, the best way to overcome this is to buy locally. And if you're afraid to go out, understandable, but buying online, but locally. So that's the key there. It's local, local, local. And things will rebound, but it's going to take time.
Okay, thanks very much, Sherry. Catherine, I do see the questions now in the chat function there, so I won't repeat it over and over again. Catherine.
I agree with what the other candidates are saying about buying local and certainly having better coordination with the different levels of government. I think another thing the city can do is try to keep taxes low for everyone, for homeowners and for businesses. And one way to do that is just to review the larger capital projects. Maybe there were decisions made last winter that need to be reviewed. Big capital projects are probably need to be reconsidered in light of COVID. I think also being sure that there's procurement locally, and also ensuring that HRM employees are fully employed so that we can support local people working. I think those are the main things, just trying to keep costs reasonable and take advantage of any federal and provincial loans that may be available for the city, and infrastructure funds that could help affordable housing.
Okay, great. Thanks, Catherine. Rini.
I agree, basically, yeah, shop local incentive program to encourage residents to spend their dollars locally will benefit residents and the businesses. And this is something really lacking in all of HRM with the districts. I also think the city really needs to look at the tendering process. You know, we have procurements that are going out to big business, but we need to maybe allocate at least 30% to our local service providers. We want these people to have jobs so they can spend their monies in the local district. So again, I think we need to think about online business directories of all the businesses, especially for District 10, to make it easy for people to access if they want to get their hair cut, if they want their lawn to be shoveled. I think these are the key things for to address the issue for COVID, which will be around for, unfortunately, a number of years. And we need to make it easy for the business community.
That's great. Thank you very much. Andrew, I'll come back to you.
There. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, great. Well, I think the most important thing that I would like to say is that we as councillors should consult business associations, business groups, and those in the know who have great ideas. I plan on supporting our business by thinking outside of the box and working with businesses to find solutions. Some ideas I have, and I'm very open-minded, but for example, restaurants, encourage curbside pickup, outdoor dining, advocate to extend patio time into the cooler season, being creative using outdoor heaters, serving warm drinks, etc. And then for the office, with 25% of the workforce are only back downtown, many restaurants are suffering. So I encourage working split work schedule. Employees can work from home in the office during the week. Bringing more employees back will help support the local food industry, taking guidance from the WHO and local health authorities, and support local home businesses and support and buy local. Thank you.
Okay, that's great. Thanks very much, Andrew. And Kyle, on to you.
Thank you. So the municipality has limited fiscal firepower compared to the federal government or even the province. So I think we need to take very specific targeted measures to make the best use of the resources that we have. So for example, extending commercial tax deadlines to businesses that need it, but not ones that don't, and continuing to spend on specific infrastructure projects that have a high likelihood of rejuvenating the local economy, I think would be good actions that we could take that would be relatively affordable for the municipality.
That's great. Thank you very much. Okay, I think that was everybody. Yes, I think it was. So just checking. Yep. Okay, on to the next question. I'm going to go to the municipality prior to COVID-19 was working towards commercial tax reform. Commercial tax was a topic of conversation at council meetings over the last few days. Do you believe our commercial tax system needs to be amended? And if so, how would you like to do that? I'm going to go to Rini first.
Yeah, I think the implement commercial tax reform without raising taxes on the commercial sector is key. We're in a pandemic. This is not the time to even think about raising any taxes. One way of achieving this is to tax rate on the averaging to help with consistency and clarity for business.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much. Okay, that was a quick answer. See, you had me surprised there. That's great. Thank you. Okay, now we'll go to Andrew.
Okay, yeah, so I believe the commercial tax system needs to be amended. I believe it is time for an objective review of the whole commercial tax system. Downtown businesses have been getting a raw deal for years, both in assessment process and the rates charged. In order to have a vibrant downtown and regional center, I believe it is important that businesses are taxed fairly, competitively, and consistently. They also need appropriate service levels and support. Don't mind my dogs barking. They also have opinions. Thank you.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. My dogs do at home as well. So thank you very much. Mohammed?
Well, for me, the only plan that I have seen in the last few months is that the commercial tax bills increase more than 5% over the next 3 years. So that is not enough. So we have to do more. And Councillor Sam Austin talked about tiered assessment rates and creating 5 more new commercial zones. I am not really sure that that's the way to go because it is going to complicate the whole process. But obviously making it fair and equitable is what I'm looking at.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much. Catherine.
Anytime council is contemplating changes like this, I think what is required is to have a transparent consultation process where everybody who is involved and concerned is invited to speak and share their views. So yes, I think there's probably room for tax reform in many areas, and commercial is one of them. But I think it would need to be widespread consultations and stakeholder meetings and that sort of thing in order to develop something that's fair and workable and that gives businesses the predictability that they need.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much. Kyle, over to you.
Thank you. So I think there's always room for improvement here. I think taking steps like averaging any tax increases that may happen in the future would be reasonable to make it less of a burden on businesses. However, I do question the wisdom of doing major reforms right now. In terms of the kind of benefit that we get for the amount of time spent in it, I don't think it makes sense to do it in the middle of a pandemic. In a couple of years, I'd be very interested in following up with that. But I think there's more important priorities that we can address right now. Furthermore, for any kind of changes to the commercial tax system, I would like to focus on keeping it as simple as possible to reduce the administrative burden on businesses in the municipality itself. Thank you.
Okay, that's great. Thank you, Kyle. And finally, last but not least, Sherry.
My whole platform is about equity. And so when I'm talking about equity, I'm also talking about what is fair. Having spoken to many business owners, they believe that the current system of commercial tax is out of control. It's not sustainable, and they need help. We are in the middle of a global pandemic, and they are struggling. And what they do need is help from us. We need a fairer tax system particularly for small businesses, but also what's fair for the larger businesses as well. I believe that we need to support businesses to thrive, and we need to support them and not to hinder their growth in order for our fair city to grow. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you very much, Sherry. I appreciate everyone's comments so far. I'm trying not to editorialize. It's really hard for me not to provide comments after each of your comments, but I'm trying really hard. But just, since you're all running for council, it's a good time for me to remind all of you as candidates that the commercial tax rates are roughly 3 times the residential tax rate. Of course, businesses in many cases get far fewer services in most cities, in Halifax as well. So just thought I'd pass that on so you're all aware of it as you're running, because it's my opportunity to talk to you as well. So thank you, everyone. I want to move on to additional questions. Sherry, since I can still see you, I'm going to ask you the first question, which is, how will you ensure not just diversity in staff reports or in your staff reports and projects, but also inclusive feedback and collaboration to ensure diversity?
Okay. So it's my understanding that diversity is a fact, equity is a choice, and inclusion is action. So those are the things that I'm running on: equity, diversity, and inclusion. And all of those pieces I will be bringing to the table, and as such, my committees, my reports, and everything that I do. What I also think is really important is that we have to have a processes with our community for public engagement. We need to have lots of conversations. We need to have transparency in whatever it is that we're doing. Processes take time, so I would rather take time and make sure we're getting quality translated into everything that we do. These things are not easy when we're talking about equity, diversity, and inclusion, and they require care and nurturing and compassion in the way we approach things with community. And that's the only way we're going to build community, is by building trust, relationship building, and capacity building.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much, Sherry. Okay, I'm going to go to Kyle now.
Great, thank you. So I want to make sure that we have a diverse team on all levels of the municipality, so that we can make sure that we have capable people looking at issues from a huge array of different perspectives, so we really have a more complete picture for our reports and our projects. I think also reaching out to a diverse set of local community groups and looking for the input and participation will also be helpful. And finally, I think it's about designing good questions. Systemic racism can occur without any explicit racist feelings, just because the way decisions may affect underrepresented people is not actively considered. So it's important that we try and consider a wide range of potential repercussions of our actions and ask questions accordingly.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much, Kyle. On to Andrew.
Yes, so In the staff reports, I will ensure inclusive feedback and collaboration by bringing the diverse working groups together that represent HRM. These include diversity and inclusion, the African Nova Scotian Affairs Integration Office in Halifax, the LGBTQ2S, Mi'kmaq Indigenous, the new immigrants, and etc. for feedback and collaboration. I believe that is key to doing that for sure. Thank you.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. And just a reminder, we're putting the questions down in the chat there, so I'm not sort of going through them again, but I will this time, which is how will we ensure not only diversity in your staff reports and projects, but also consider inclusive feedback and collaboration. Catherine.
Thank you. I think when it comes to including diversity in reports, it's really important for the council and staff to be proactive and to reach out well in advance of reports and decisions and request feedback early on. Some of the groups don't have a lot of resources to participate in some of these council processes, so they need to be given lots of lead time and invited to participate. And I think an example would be making sure that we have annual reports, for example, on acting on the Wortley recommendations. I think we need to have annual progress reports, and that those annual reports are done in conjunction with the people who originally participated in the Wortley report itself. So that way we provide consistency and build relationships that are necessary to make progress on these issues.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much, Catherine. I see Chi has raised their hand. So it is my hope that you can type your question in the Q&A or in the chat function, so that I could ask the question of the candidates rather than having folks ask individual questions on audio, if that's okay. So if we could try that. So if you could type your question in the Q&A, I think that would be helpful, and we'll follow up. Okay, back to the original question: how will you ensure not only just diversity in your staff reports and projects, but inclusive and diverse feedback and collaboration? On to Mohammed.
I already sit in the Halifax Police Regional Diversity Working Group, so I would like to start something like that in the municipality, affecting inclusive feedback and collaboration, making sure that we have inclusive feedback and collaboration. And the other way I would like to deal with this is to have an advisory committee in District 10 representing non-government businesses and people from different neighborhoods in the community, so that we take care of the diversity we have in the community, and also take all sorts of issues raised by people's voices are heard in that process.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much, Mohammed. And finally, Rini.
So this is an excellent question. I feel the time has come for the city to survey their own departments and the business sector within HRM to determine how diverse their workforce truly is. Once a baseline has been established, the city needs to work with marginalized groups to find ways to increase that ratio. And in District 10, as I already kind of put out in my platform, this is the Volunteer Citizens Advisory Group that I'm looking to form. I think this is crucial so that we can have diverse groups throughout the District 10 from all walks of life in all the neighborhoods to meet on a quarterly basis to plan and address all these issues that might come forward.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much, Rini. I think that's everybody again. I'm going to jump on to a new question now, which is one of our goals at the Chamber is to ensure that Halifax is the most business-friendly city across the country of Canada, to ensure that many businesses will either relocate here or locate here. So how do we ensure that there is an open for business culture in Halifax? Again, Rini, since I can see you, I'm going to start with you, if that's okay. So how do we ensure there's an open for business culture in Halifax? Oh, I think you're on mute. There we go.
Sorry about that. So one of my main goals is to better connect the local business community with the residents. I want to entice businesses to open shops in District 10. And to do that, we need to make it welcoming and accessible for the creative industries and entrepreneurs. I want to utilize city staff to conduct business surveys. Example, average rent in an area, how much parking space is available, commercial tax rate, highlighting business incentive programs while showcasing the positive attributes of opening a business in District 10 with a nearby library, a multi-purpose Canada Games Center, the nearby Birch Cove Lakes Wilderness Parks, bilingual schools, and more. I want to create an online business directory of all the businesses in District 10, and I want to encourage the city to partner with businesses to help offset costs for signage upgrade programs, facade improvements, graffiti removal, landscaping programs, and business training programs.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much. Kyle?
Thank you. So I'd like to reduce unnecessary red tape whenever possible and work with local organizations like the Halifax Partnership and indeed the Halifax Chamber of Commerce to continually develop and implement good ideas to help make Halifax a more open for business city. And I'd also like to, with housing especially, make sure that it's very easy for skilled immigrants and students to actually stay here and bring all the skills that they have to the table, start new businesses, get involved, and deliver their in Halifax, and really take advantage of all this opportunity that we have there. I didn't mean to give the impression that I have huge issues with decreasing the commercial tax rates before. While I think that changing the entire structure is something that we should probably leave for later, I do think reducing them somewhat might be beneficial.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much, Kyle. On to Mohammed.
So for me, a countrywide mass media campaign using social media that effectively really engages businesses to come to Halifax, that's the way to go to make sure that our businesses are open and that message is relayed to throughout the country. And obviously, we don't have a business commission yet. I know that some of the candidates have tried, but there's none yet. So we have to work on that to have local business association representing and talking to the businesses here. That has become an issue for me. We need to have, I'll stop at that. Okay, thank you.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much. Sherry?
So how will you ensure an open for business culture in Halifax? Well, I'm looking at this between the next 12 and 18 months. So during our time of rebounding from COVID. Now, we can't be open for business if people are sick. So we have to continue to follow the provincial prevention prescription. How's that? PPP. So in terms of masking, physical distancing, washing your hands, being considerate of others. And we can keep our economy open by keeping our people healthy and safe. So with COVID still at large, the health and the well-being of the public must be the first priority. And our bubble is the safest place in North America, except in Nunavut. So we open using the precautions of our new normal, and we must be comfortable with our discomfort for a short period of time. In the same way, we still also have to continue to sell our district and take advantage of all the entrepreneurial talent that we have here.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much, Sherry. Just got that in under time. That's great. Andrew.
Yeah, so businesses of all sizes thrive on population growth and prosperity. I will do everything I can to encourage businesses to locate in Halifax and to my District 10. This will also include reducing red tape for businesses in Halifax. During these times of COVID, it is especially important to support home and small businesses. And I think that we also need to promote home businesses and allow people in their homes to run businesses, because if they aren't able to, if they've lost their job due to COVID, and they have a means to support themselves. We need to support that, especially in these times. In these times, it is important to support local businesses. Thank you very much.
That's great. Thank you, Andrew. And last but not least, Catherine.
Thanks. I think actually there's been a lot of progress on reducing red tape and regulations in the partnership between HRM and the province. So I think that needs to continue. The work of the advisory panel for the joint project for regulatory modernization is what I'm referring to there. I think that there seems to have been a lot of progress there. I would also be supportive of council providing more budget transparency, streamlining routine processes, and implementing digital PLC process. All of these things would give businesses more predictability and again, looking at fair commercial taxes.
That's great. Thank you very much. Yes, I sit on that committee, the Regulatory Affairs Committee, and we need a better acronym, don't we, to kind of make it easier to remember. I see a question from Mike here. So Catherine, I'm going to stay with you on the question. The rest of you can kind of see the question in the Q&A. I think you can open the Q&A. And it says District 10 is a flow-through area for the downtown. With further development, this will put even more pressure. What are your ideas to improve traffic in the area?
Oh, wow, put me on the spot. I think we have to look at all the developments that, and the permitting process for those developments in light of the traffic pressures that are being placed on the older neighborhoods and the older streets. They weren't always designed for the level of traffic that we're seeing now and the increases. I think improving public transportation to make it a more attractive option for people is one really important thing we can do to try to reduce the car traffic. And I also think that if we have developments that include workplaces and restaurants and stores in the ground floors of new housing, it would provide more services locally so people don't have to be driving around as much all over the city. So it's just trying to get more integrated planning to provide more services locally and also options for alternatives to cars.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much. Okay, Andrew, I'm going to come back to you with, District 10 is a flow-through area for the downtown with further development, but more pressure. What are your ideas to improve traffic in the area?
It's a great question, and probably one of the more popular ones that I see when I'm going door to door, or that I hear. Bedford Highway is a big bottleneck, and so is Dutch Village Road, and something needs to be done with that. And I've been involved with HRM engagement sessions where they come out to the community and we hear what their plans are, and they actually have a plan that works. That it sort of looks okay. So for the Bedford Highway, to reduce that bottleneck, they're talking about removing the traffic lights at the Windsor Exchange so that inbound traffic from Bedford Highway going to Dartmouth would just keep on going. There'd be no stoplights. Another concern with the traffic congestion is improving Dutch Village Road, and there's a lot of traffic turning down that way, and we have speeding as issues. And sorry, I'm out of time.
There you go. Okay, well, that's great. Thank you very much, Andrew. And just as I continue to go through this, I see there's another question from Sarah. And although she talks a little bit about traffic, she also talks about what policies are in place for new developers to take traffic into consideration before plans are approved. So how will you address the traffic issues, and what policies are in place for new development? So just something else to think about. I think we'll kind of keep one traffic question, but just something else to think about as we go through. Mohammed, your thoughts on traffic in the area and how to improve it?
Traffic, speeding, congestion, these are all important issues raised by residents in District 10. And on Bedford Highway and Dutch Village Road, there are already projects in place which will take care of this, though these are long-term projects, but they are in places. We need to ensure that any development has approved by the city has matching development requirements in the areas. Like if there is a development project approved, what is the impact? Obviously, there are impacts on schools, or obviously there are impacts on the transit system. Obviously, there are impacts on the local streets. So, do we have matching developments in those areas? So we need to ensure that those are taken care of. And I think I'm out of time as well. So.
Yep, that's great. Okay, thank you very much, Sherry.
So this was an area of a lot of concern throughout the neighborhood. In terms of traffic calming, speed, and noise, particularly. I would work with the community in terms of engagement, so I can hear what it is that they need and make some suggestions as how best it would work for their community. I would work with the city planning and developers and the traffic departments within the city to also work with them to see how best we could meet the needs of the community.
Okay, that's great. Thanks very much, Sherry. And Rini?
So this is the biggest issue that I...
Oh, you went to mute, sorry.
Can you hear me?
Yep, you're good now.
So this is the biggest issue that I hear throughout the district. I was involved with the Leading the Transit model for the last year to kind of look at ways to address this. And the city needs to look at other cities where they've been very successful, Vancouver and Calgary. We need to reclaim residential streets from Melrose Avenue to Gateway to Laurentine. We need to make sure that the arteries that connect from the highways coming off the 102, the 101 to the Bedford Highway, we make it easy for commuters to get in there and stop going through residential streets. So I think this is absolutely key. We also need to provide alternative modes of transportation. So we have no bike lanes that connect from Kearney Lake to Rockingham to Bedford to Fairview, really for this district. So if we provide something that would be safe, not just a white line, but a safe bike lane throughout the district, alternative modes of transportation, I think that people would use them.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much. So I'm going to go to Kyle, but before I do, Kyle, I just want to remind all of our candidates that there are questions in the Zoom chat as well as in the Q&A, so you may want to look at both of those. We're running short on time, so I will likely not get through all of the questions, but I may ask some of you some of the questions and others the other questions, okay? So just keep that in mind, so you may want to take a look at those questions. Kyle, we'll go back to the question on traffic for you and ask you your thoughts.
Great, well, thank you. So I think fundamentally, as we're expanding Halifax, as there's growth, choosing, how many people are in a new building, how big it is, all it does is determine the rate of the growth and the increase in traffic, right? So that's all that's being determined there. So I think what's important is figuring out exactly how quickly we can expand the effectiveness of our transit system, like buses, so that we make sure that the growth speed is the same as what we can improve there. Because, like I said, the growth is going to continue one way or another, so we need to find a way that we can actually accommodate that. So I think improving systems like buses, especially further away from the downtown core, because people are always going to go back and forth from there, is very key. I know I, before the pandemic at least, went to St. Mary's by bus from where I live. I'm around Gateway Road, and it took over 40 minutes for what is only about a 15-minute drive. So there's definitely room for improvement there.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. Kyle, I'm going to stay with you for a minute, if that's okay, which is, with a limited pool from which to draw, how would you argue at council for a greater investment in District 10, even if you thought it might provide a broader benefit in another HRM district? A bit of a conflict.
So that is a conflict. And honestly, I think it's probably better if, as a city, we try and cooperate and put money where it serves people best. I don't think we should try and split up Halifax based upon this district and that district and make the councillors just about benefiting their people and only their people. I think that's very kind of divisive, actually. And I think instead looking at our overall well-being will serve everyone better in the long run.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. Andrew, I'll ask you the same question. With a limited pool, how would you argue for a greater investment in District 10 even if you felt it might be a broader benefit in another HRM district?
Yeah, well, I mean, part of me feels District 10 has been underserved for so long. So if we were talking about funds for road reconstruction, if you look at Dutch Village Road, I think we need to fight for these improvements. And I know other districts have interests as well. And but I would fight to have some of that money in our district spent, because we have been so many years left without money being spent in our district. And other districts, and they have benefited from you know, different representation over the last number of years. But of course, you know, I get what Kyle's saying as well. You have to look at the broader picture and serve the whole of HRM, and I do agree with that as well. But there has to be a fine balance there. But right now I'm saying in certain aspects, HRM needs to invest in this district. We are the most densely populated area, I believe, in HRM. And certainly if not yet, we are getting that way fast. Thank you.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. Rini, the question for you, same.
So as much as I would like it to be kind of where we all work together on council, I'm going to fight for my district here. There are a number of things that I feel we really need. A community center that would address the issue for seniors and for new moms. We have no rec programs here in this area. They all have to go to Chocolate Lake, you know, so we need to look at what's best for this district. And I think that I'm going to stand up and say this is what I want for the district. I'm hearing it from the citizens. Schools is an absolute must. If there was a program that would help fund some more schools in this district, because all our elementary schools are a cap, I would be, you know, really kind of pushing for that in this district. We are, the growth in this area is huge. We've had 4 large developments coming through, and we need to make sure we have the proper infrastructure here.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much. Catherine, I'm going to move on to this last question. Well, not the last question, but another question for you, which is, since more than 80% of Nova Scotia businesses are small businesses, are there some things that you will specifically do to support small business owners, since many of them are currently closing their doors?
That's a tough one.
It is a tough one.
I think we already touched on the commercial tax rate, and that seems to be a really big issue for a lot of businesses, trying to get more fairness there. So I think that would be probably the most important one, especially now where they're struggling with COVID. And maybe there are ways to extend other benefits through extensions of tax deadlines and that sort of thing.
Okay, great, thank you. Mohammed, the same question again. Since more than 80% of Nova Scotia businesses are small businesses, what will you do to specifically support them?
Well, to make sure that these small businesses and medium businesses survive this COVID impact, we have to make sure that we provide all kinds of services that that we can to those services or to those businesses. And obviously, going to different sectors of small businesses and asking them what needs to be done for them, that would be a good way to go to, because the needs are different for different kinds of businesses.
Okay, that's great, thank you. So I'm going to go to Sherry with that question again, but before I do that, I just want to tell everybody what I'll be doing next, which is I will be asking you what your priorities are for the next 4 years and how you plan on achieving them, and you need to tell me in 1 minute. So get ready for that question. But before I do that, Sherry, I just want to ask you again, since more than 80% of Nova Scotia businesses are small businesses, what specifically will you do to support those small business owners, since many of them are closing their doors?
Well, I would certainly support a change of the commercial tax rate. I would encourage entrepreneurship, and I would look at different ways of how to run a business in the time of COVID, and trying to support businesses that are really struggling, and trying to find ways about how do we do things differently so they can continue to stay open and continue to flourish in this very difficult time.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much, Sherry. Okay, so I'm going to go to that last question now, which is what are your priorities for the next 4 years and how do you plan on achieving them? I know it's very unfair to ask you to do that in 1 minute, but I'm going to ask you anyway. So I'll start the other way, and I'll start with Kyle. If you'd like to tell me kind of what your priorities are for the next 4 years.
So my top priority is the housing market. My other main strategic priorities include improving the transit system, particularly more suburban or even rural areas, repairing relations between the police and our local communities through outreach and oversight, preserving green spaces and acting on environmental issues, and making sure that we have good investment on our public infrastructure. I've also recorded all of the hundreds of issues that I've heard from people that I've spoken with, and I intend to look into every single one of them to see if anything to see what, if anything, can be done about them. Not all of them can be fixed, but I think they all deserve to be heard. Broadly speaking, I intend to achieve my strategic goals with a few means: setting deadlines and building measures for transparency and accountability, compromising to overcome barriers, cooperating with local organizations, other levels of government, and fellow councillors. I can't do everything alone, but there's enough consensus about most issues that I think I can get a lot done. Much of my job will be about facilitation and putting on a little bit of pressure to make sure things get done and deadlines don't start slipping.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much, Kyle. And thanks for getting that all in a minute. Rini.
I think a key thing right now is I would focus on a moratorium on any HRM tax increases for a minimum of 2 years. It's essential to help our residents and businesses during these pandemic years. And my plan is to put that forward as a motion to council. Traffic calming measures throughout the district, they need to be implemented. I want the city department managers in engineering, planning, transit, and traffic to meet with the residents so residents can hear what city staff have to say and staff can hear directly from the residents about the impact of the increased volume. I think we need to address the affordable and accessible housing options. I've kind of already outlined those. I think one thing I haven't touched on is my support for the Halifax 2050 plan. We need more options for green footprint with the investment in more parks, sport fields, playgrounds. COVID taught us that people need to be outside when they can. Let's invest in our hiking trails and our wilderness areas. We can do this by investing in community engagement and accessing federal programs and by working with nonprofit organizations.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much, Randy. Appreciate that. Andrew, over to you.
Yeah, well, my priorities for the next 4 years. I'm going to advocate for an HRM community center to bring back HRM recreation programs in District 10 because they are extinct thanks to, current council, anyhow. And I'm very passionate about that. This was taken away and currently doesn't exist in our district. We have to reduce the speeding. I want to work with the province to advocate on reducing speed limits to 40 kilometers an hour maximum speed limit in residential streets. I want to advocate to eliminate systemic racism practices within HRM, working in collaboration with the African Nova Scotia Affairs Integration Office. Improve infrastructure support, a walkable community, road safety, and growing development in District 10, because we don't have that support for all the new development. Environment, create an urban wilderness parks committee to help support the future growth of Blue Mountain Birch Cove Regional Park. And create a public advisory council for District 10. My idea 4 years ago. I almost won 4 years ago. Difference 35 votes. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you very much, Andrew. Catherine.
Well, my priorities are making progress on affordable housing and making progress on adapting for climate change and building a more resilient city. I think that we can improve our quality of life and adapt for climate change, and we can many of the things that would make our city better sorry, I've lost my train. I think that if we make progress on affordable housing, we can do it while adapting to climate change. So we can invest in energy efficient, affordable housing and make progress on climate change. We can invest in conservation areas, which are good for the climate and good for recreation, good for people. We can invest in our transportation system, which is good for the housing market and for affordable housing and for the climate. Any of these things that we can do to make our city more resilient can also improve our quality of life and make our city more attractive for the future.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sherry.
Thank you. I think this is my favorite question. What am I going to do for the next 4 years? Well, what I'm not going to do now is make a whole lot of empty promises that I cannot keep. What I can do is keep to my platform, which has to do with equity, the environment, the economy, and trying to make those pieces better for District 10. I am there for the next 4 years to represent the people of District 10. I am their voice at the council table. I'm going to be listening and bringing those needs to council and then addressing them. What I can promise is that I will always do my absolute best for everyone that lives in District 10. I can promise good governance and good representation. And this is a huge learning process, which I will happily learn when I win on October 17th.
Okay, that's great. Thanks very much, Sherry. And last but not least, Mohammed.
Thank you so much. I have had many thoughtful conversations with people from all corners of District 10. So it is certain that one thing is clear, that District 10 must adapt to the changes and the growth. So we must have community infrastructure, including schools, and support future development. Safe, accessible streets, sidewalks, crosswalks, those are very important. We need to fill out the gaps between public transit options that people take. In one way, we encourage people to take public transit, but don't do the actions, don't take the actions. Seniors need our help and support, and I'm proposing an affordable bus for seniors and the expansion of seniors property tax rebate by 12.5%. And obviously renewing and our parks and playgrounds in the school system, and supporting Birch Cove and Blue Mountain and other trail system that we have.
Okay, that's great. Thanks very much, Mohammed.
Hello, my name's Christopher Hurry. I live in Fairview. Hopefully give me a little bit of background about myself. Very quickly, I was born in Belfast. We left when the house at the end of the road blew up. My father worked in the hospital, and they declared that the hospital grounds were military target now that they were treating soldiers. We moved to England, and then we moved to Newfoundland when I was a child. I went back to school in England, which is why I explain it, because I've got this slight accent. And then we moved to America. I lived in America for 4 years and went to school outside of Boston. And then moved to Toronto, where I lived for quite a long time. And then 16 years ago, my wife and I moved to Halifax. Her family were down near New Germany. Halifax has been amazingly good for us. We've lived 14 of the 16 years in the district. We bought a house 3 years ago. So let's see. I have a degree from the University of Toronto, History, Fine Art. I've got a certificate in Human Resources from St. Mary's, and I have an MBA from St. Mary's. My background has been working in the not-for-profit sector. I worked in cooperative housing. I volunteered, turned around a housing cooperative in Toronto. I turned around a business here, the art gallery associated with the Art Gallery of Nova Scotia, which I want to get the name right, which is Tachuk, I think. And they're really good. They've donated $1 million over the past 40 years to the art gallery. So where did that leave me? So the MBA, and currently I'm working as a researcher at the IWK. I'm looking after the spinal database for children. So I've got some other duties, and it would have expanded more, but COVID has interrupted, as with all our lives. And at the moment, I'm committed to this. I read the Halifax report on the climate change 2050, and I thought it was a really good report. I loved it. I just couldn't believe that it thought we had 30 years to deal with this problem. I probably wouldn't have entered the race if I hadn't read that report, but I just felt like I had to make a stand. I had to, like I've spoken about it personally, and I didn't want to be looking back and saying I should have done something. So I'm running for your councillor, and I would much appreciate your votes if possible. Thank you very much.
Right under the wire there. Thanks so much. That was great timing. So we are going to move into a few questions now. As mentioned, you'll have 1 minute to answer every question.
Okay.
Hopefully see the clock there, and we have been muting candidates after a few seconds after a minute, so just be prepared. That could happen, but
okay,
we will have to not do that today. So our first question was from our sponsors, the Nova Scotia Association of Realtors.
Yep.
And it was, purchase and rental housing supplies are near historic lows in Nova Scotia. Housing is essential to our communities and our businesses. How will you ensure there is a healthy housing mix that includes the entire spectrum from community housing, rental, and home ownership?
Housing, that's a really good question, the housing question. HRM has limited power and authority within it. What it does have, it should be maximizing its use. So things like developments, it needs to have, make sure that there's multi-income in the developments. At the moment, we seem to have too many monoculture developments. Just one income bracket is being fed. We need to work better with the province and the federal government. I would love for the city to be able to get some sort of bonds from the Canadian Infrastructure Bank, develop our own housing that would be multi-income. I think we need to have greater density downtown. This really is a crisis, it's a human crisis. It takes a long time to turn this boat around, but if we all work together, I'm sure we can do it. Thank you.
Oh, great job. Look at that, right in 54 seconds. Thank you very much for that. So we're going to move into a few chamber questions and viewer questions.
Okay.
The first one is a chamber question.
Yeah.
And it is COVID-19 has had a great impact on our business community. How do you plan on supporting our businesses as we continue to live with the virus for an indefinite period of time?
Okay, can I ask, when you're not talking about me supporting the business, because I can't, you're talking about the general HRM supporting businesses, is that the?
Yeah, as in councillors in general, yeah.
Councillors, yeah, because I was like, I can get a haircut, but that's not going to support this.
Oh, that's also really important too, yeah, but
yes.
Yeah, no, more as in the councillors and HRM, yes.
Yeah. Okay. So this is a really, really pertinent question. I think we all need to do our part in supporting local businesses. So it's reestablishing those connections with the small businesses, whether it's the haircut down the road. But you know, to frame this in a bigger picture, I have to frame it. It's that we need to have a comfort level, which thank goodness we have with the bubble. We need to be clear on the leadership, clear on the message that we're providing. You know, one of the things that absolutely horrified me that I read about was this attempt to have a maskless day at Walmart on Friday. And I think if HRM and we have the police, I just think we need to crack down on that stuff and not allow it, because that is so disruptive and negative. We need to be positive, support small businesses, obey the rules, and be together on this. This is a tough time for us all. Thank you.
Thanks very much. All right, the next question was one of our questions as well. And it is, the municipality prior to COVID-19 was working towards commercial tax reform. Do you believe that a commercial tax system needs to be amended? And if so, how would you like to do so?
Wow.
It's a big question, yes.
It's a huge question. Yeah. So this is incredibly complicated. So I've jotted down a few things that are undermining the current tax system. If we have a tax system that was based upon 3% growth every year, we'd be wonderful, but we're not in that anymore. Things have changed. We've got low productivity, increased inequality. We've got a changing workforce and the nature of work. So the nature of work's changing. There's more gig stuff and globalization, which is both seemingly going forward and backwards at the same time. One of the things I'm super concerned about is that we might be developing into a K type recovery, where only a certain portion of the people recover and a large portion of people don't recover. it's so complex, but we have to approach it, and we have to think about all of these options when we do it to come up with something that's fair and equitable for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You're very good at this minute thing. All right, just a few more. So this was a viewer question. It is District 10 is a flow-through area for the downtown. And with further development, this will put more pressure. What are your ideas to improve the traffic in the area?
That's a really good question. It's key. It comes up everywhere. It's right in front of my house. Development, I don't like the development that's happening on the outside of the city. I think we need more development within the city. Flow through traffic, we need to have a lot more traffic calming. And I think there are a lot more tools that we've not utilized, whether it's speed bump chicanes, cameras, you know, things are going to get increased. You could have car tracking, for example, in the near future, I'm sure. But we need better transit. We can't build up the Bedford Highway or the 102. So it's kind of, can we move more people into the downtown? Well, we can. This is a really complicated problem that will take a lot to solve. It's simple on one hand, we know about it, but solutions that come up for everybody, I don't know.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
So we have one more viewer question.
Okay.
And that is, with a limited pool from which to draw, would you argue at council for investment in District 10, even if you felt it would provide a broader benefit in another HRM district? Would you like me to repeat it?
I needed clarity on that one. I was trying to figure that one out. You, by a limited pool, do you mean like a capital pool? Is that what they're talking about?
Yes.
We've only got a limited amount of budget, but if you put this in District 10, everybody will benefit?
This was a viewer question, so I'm not sure I can delve into it, but I can read it again if we want.
Sure, let me just take some notes quickly.
Sure. Yeah. With a limited pool from which to draw from, would you argue at council for investment in a District 10, even if you felt it would provide a broader benefit in another HRM district?
Okay. Yeah, okay. Well, you think about the positive, okay. Okay, so this is interesting. So you think about the positive ones. We're all in this together. I believe that if we have things that are developed, capital development within District 10, and it benefits the greater community, I think that's wonderful. The problems that you get into is if somebody was to turn around and say, hey, we want to put the heavy duty truck parking lot in District 10, you know, it will benefit District 7. And that becomes a lot more complicated, obviously. So these are things that we have to do, which is about, I want to bring it back to community, talking to our community about what we're willing to do, talking to through our community and council, talking to the whole HRM, revitalizing this. This is a conversation, should be about our future and the infrastructure and where we want to go and how we want to live. I think we should all be doing that. It's for the greater good in that sense.
Great, I appreciate that response. We just have two more questions.
Okay.
This one is, how will you ensure an open for business culture in Halifax?
Open for business culture. So, okay. So open for business culture. You know what? This is complicated in the sense of, I think we do have an open for business culture. If I want to delve into it, I say, I want to have the rule of law apply to everybody. I want us to have a green future. I think that we can develop that through a proper green plan that will invest in business. I think we can have the resources and the entrepreneurship, and we can encourage that and build upon it. And we can build a better future, not just for us, but for everybody. I think we have to grasp the opportunities that we're being presented. I think there's some difficult decisions that we have to make. We're running out of time on a lot of things, but we do have to push forward for these things. And business is definitely key within all of this. Thank you.
Thanks very much. All right, we're at our last question. So that is, what are your priorities for the next 4 years and how do you plan on achieving them?
Right. So my priority, my overarching priority would be the funding for the green plan. I don't like that the green plan is a 30-year green plan. I believe we have to accelerate it. It's not just that it has to be accelerated, it has to be well funded and thought out. I believe that we can get funding for that. But the funding that we're already providing in the first year was reduced. Instead of having 30 people working on it, we had 3. That's going to have a knock-on effect on every single budget that we do. So to do that, we need to ensure that it's properly budgeted within the budget. I believe we have to deal with the traffic issue because that's coming up an awful lot for everybody. Traffic is the big one at the moment for my constituents, and they're not my constituents, but the people I'd like to represent. So yeah, so it would be, yeah, development's another one. I'd like development to be properly done, but we're over the minute. Yeah,
Just hit. We're good. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Okay.
That's great.
And thank you to all of our candidates. I'm cutting it pretty close here. Really appreciate you all first running and second for participating and giving both the Halifax Chamber of Commerce and your constituents the opportunity to ask questions and meet you on a more personal level. We have recorded this and it will be available eventually. I'm sure that Kathleen and Sandra will get back to you on the details of that. A big thank you to our sponsor, the Nova Scotia Association of Realtors, for the opportunity to promote the importance of voting, hearing from our candidates, and of course, a big topic of conversation, affordable housing. So please keep your bulletins on our eyes on our bulletins and social media, and we will we'll continue to post candidate responses to questions if there was anything that anyone would like to get out there. Thank you all very much for joining us, and thank you all for running, and I look forward to success for every single one of you since I'm going to be unbiased. So thank you all for joining us and look forward to speaking to you all again soon. Thank you very much.